This year's draft is loaded with great players. We have players like Johnny Manziel, Jadeveon Clowney, Blake Bortles, Teddy Bridgewater, Khalil Mack, offensive tackles like Greg Robinson, Jake Matthews. So this year's draft is loaded with um, great prospects. Now, a lot of the experts haven't been talking about the running backs because there isn't that much depth at the running back position in this year's draft. But I have a couple running backs that I want to talk about who I feel could make a immediate impact on their teams, on the teams they get drafted to. And I would have to start with my favorite running back, which is Kadeem Carey. Played for the University of Arizona. An amazing running back. He had an amazing 2012 season. He finished the season with 1,900 rushing yards, shy of 2,000. But one of my favorite running backs, like I said earlier. He holds the FBS record for 16 straight 100 rushing yard games, and that started in the 2012 season and it ended this year. So we can see that the consistency with Kadeem Carey is there. He's a consistent player. If he can stay on the field for 16 games and produce at that high of a level, then you know that he is a running back that a lot of NFL teams are going to look at. Now, I see him being drafted anywhere between the second or the third round just because there's a lot of guys in this year's draft that are really, really good, so they'll probably go ahead of him. The second running back I want to talk about is Carlos Hyde. He played at the university. He played at Ohio State University, and he's a great running back. Another good running back. He did have some off-field issues at the beginning of the season, but once he got plugged in with the program again, he finished the season with 9 straight 100-yard rushing games. Which once again, just like Carey, he shows that he has consistency as well. The difference between Kadeem Carey and Carlos Hyde is that Carlos Hyde is a little bit bigger and he's a little bit more physical. So he's a down-the-hill runner, so he gets most of his yards after hits, something that a lot of running backs this past season in the NFL didn't have. You know, a lot of them would get injured, so we know that the physicality is there. He doesn't get injured, and hopefully he lands, like I said earlier, with a team that can really guide him in the right way because he needs mentoring. Like I said, he had off-field issues, but if you can put him with a team like maybe the Patriots, Coach Bill Belichick, you know, I'm pretty sure that he would have a great career with a team like that and with mentors like him and Tom Brady and, of course, other players on that team. And the last player I want to talk about today is Tre Mason. You might have heard about him. He played with Auburn University. Of course, they made it to the national championship. They had some crazy games this year. They had a crazy game against Bama, crazy finishes. I feel like he was a great running back, like I said. But, of course, at Auburn University had Nick Marshall, which was a pretty good quarterback. So he was kind of behind his shadows this season. But he decided to declare for the draft, and this guy is a really good draft. He had a couple notable games. He had one against Alabama. He had 29 carries, 164 yards, and 1 touchdown. And the other notable game he had was against Missouri. And that was a monster game for him. I remember watching that game, and Tre Mason's name stuck in my head. He had 46 carries, 304 yards, and he had 4 touchdowns in that game. So that's a guy that I would keep my eye on in this year's draft because he's really talented. He had some crazy games. Like I said, he played at a great university. And he's a guy that I feel would get drafted anywhere between the third and fourth round because, like I said earlier, this draft is loaded with talent. So these 3 running backs I just talked about right now are the ones that I feel could make an impact. Like I said, this year's running back class, the depth isn't that deep. So I feel like these 3 guys will probably be taken off the board anywhere between the first and the fourth round. So, like I said, there's great players in this year's draft. You got Johnny Manziel, you've got the amazing Jadeveon Clowney. So, don't be surprised if these guys sneak up in the first or second rounds. I mean, you never know. Teams are going to be looking for running backs who can run, who can be physical, and who can produce game after game. And I feel like these 3 guys can do that for whatever team they land on. Well, thanks for listening to this short little vlog, and I hope that you got informed with a little bit of these players, and we'll see where they land in this year's NFL draft.